On August 15, 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio was scanning the sky. At 11:16 p.m., it picked up a signal. The signal lasted 72 seconds. It came from deep space, from a direction near the constellation Sagittarius. It was broadcasting on a frequency that every physicist and SETI researcher on Earth agreed was the single most logical frequency an intelligent civilization would use to communicate across the cosmos. It was 30 times stronger than the background noise of the universe. It matched every theoretical characteristic that scientists had predicted an intentional extraterrestrial transmission would have: frequency, bandwidth, signal strength, duration, point of origin, every single one. A volunteer astronomer reviewing the data printout 3 days later circled the sequence of numbers representing the signal and wrote one word in red pen next to it. Wow, that's what we've called it ever since. The wow signal. In the 47 years since that night, using telescopes vastly more powerful than the one that detected it, astronomers have pointed instruments at that exact patch of sky tens of thousands of times. The signal has never been detected again. Nobody has explained it. Not convincingly. Not completely. This is the story of the most significant 72 seconds in the history of radio astronomy. The Big Ear was Ohio State University's radio telescope, a sprawling, flat reflector dish covering an area larger than 3 football fields, built in the early 1960s and dedicated to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It didn't look like the telescopes in movies. No dish pointing at the sky. Instead, it was a massive flat metal surface lying on the ground, reflecting incoming radio waves upward toward a tilted receiver. It surveyed the sky passively. As the Earth rotated, different regions of space drifted across its field of view. In August 1977, it was running a sky survey, scanning for narrowband radio signals that stood out from the natural background noise of the universe. The data was recorded on paper printouts. Computer processing was minimal. Human volunteers reviewed the output. Jerry Ehman was one of those volunteers. A professor who had worked with the Big Ear program, he was reviewing the August 15th printout on August 18th, 3 days after the signal was recorded. The telescope printed signal strength as a series of letters and numbers. Background noise registered as 1s and 2s. Anything above 9 was represented by a letter, A for 10, B for 11, and so on. The wow signal printed as 6EQUJ5. That sequence, peaking at U, which represents a signal intensity of 30 times background noise, was unlike anything in the survey data. It rose, peaked, and fell exactly as you would expect a signal to behave, as it drifted through the telescope's narrow field of view due to Earth's rotation. Ehman circled the sequence in red pen. He wrote "wow" in the margin. He had no idea he was making history. To understand why the wow signal is significant, you need to understand what SETI researchers had been looking for. The premise of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is that any sufficiently advanced civilization attempting to communicate across interstellar distances would use radio waves. They travel at the speed of light, they penetrate interstellar space, and they require relatively simple technology to both transmit and receive. The specific frequency they would choose was theorized decades before 1977. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. A neutral hydrogen atom produces a radio emission at exactly 1420.405 MHz, called the hydrogen line. It's a universal constant. Any civilization advanced enough to do radio astronomy would know it. In 1959, physicists Giuseppe Cocconi and Philip Morrison published a landmark paper in the journal Nature, specifically arguing that 1420 MHz, the hydrogen line, was the most logical frequency for interstellar communication. It was the cosmic equivalent of a universal emergency channel. Every civilization in the universe that understood physics would know to listen there. The wow signal was broadcasting at 1420.456 MHz, essentially the hydrogen line, within the margin of what a distant transmitter moving relative to Earth would produce due to the Doppler effect. It was also narrowband, a tight, focused transmission rather than a broad scatter of frequencies. Natural astrophysical phenomena almost universally produce broadband signals. A narrowband signal at the hydrogen line is exactly what an intentional artificial transmission would look like. The signal strength, 30 times background noise, was extraordinary. The Big Ear was not a particularly sensitive instrument by modern standards. Whatever produced the wow signal was either extremely powerful or extremely close. Given the direction of origin, deep space, near Sagittarius, close seems unlikely. Duration, 72 seconds. Exactly consistent with how a signal from a fixed point in space would appear and disappear as Earth's rotation carried the telescope's field of view across it. Frequency, hydrogen line. Bandwidth, narrowband. Strength, 30 times background. Duration, consistent with a point source in deep space. Direction, clear. Every box checked, every single one. The morning after Ehman found the printout, the Big Ear team was electrified. They pointed the telescope back at the same coordinates. Nothing. They searched for the next month. Nothing. In the decades since, using instruments orders of magnitude more sensitive than the Big Ear, astronomers have searched that patch of sky repeatedly. The SETI Institute, the Arecibo Observatory before it was decommissioned, the Allen Telescope Array, professional and amateur astronomers around the world. Nothing. Not once. Not a hint. This is the second mystery layered inside the first. If the signal was a natural phenomenon, a star, a pulsar, a gas cloud, it should be detectable again. Natural radio sources don't just transmit once and go dark. They're physical objects. They persist. If it was a malfunction or interference from Earth, a satellite, an aircraft, terrestrial radio, it should have appeared again at similar frequencies. And it shouldn't have matched the hydrogen line with that precision. If it was an intentional transmission, a signal sent toward Earth by a civilization using the universal frequency, it might only have been aimed at us once. A narrow beam sweeping across the galaxy. We happened to be in the path for 72 seconds. And it moved on. Jerry Ehman himself, the man who found it, addressed this in an interview before his death. His assessment was careful. He said he could not explain it with any natural phenomenon he was aware of. He said the most parsimonious explanation consistent with all the data was an artificial origin. He said he was not claiming it was extraterrestrial, but he said he could not rule it out. The man who found the WOW signal spent the rest of his life unable to explain it. If a 72-second signal that matched every characteristic of an extraterrestrial transmission detected once and never again keeps you watching, subscribe. Things That Shouldn't Exist goes this deep every single week. Over 47 years, there have been multiple attempts to provide a natural explanation for the WOW signal. None has fully closed the case. The most persistent early explanation was a comet. In 2017, astronomer Antonio Paris proposed that two comets, 266P Christensen and P2008Y2, were in the vicinity of the signal's origin in August 1977, and that their hydrogen clouds could have produced the emission. The paper generated significant coverage. It was quickly challenged. Other astronomers pointed out that comets generally don't produce the kind of narrowband signal the WOW represented. Comet hydrogen clouds produce broad, diffuse emissions, not tight, focused transmissions. The math didn't fully hold. In 2024, a team of researchers published what became the most substantive natural explanation yet. Using data from the Arecibo telescope's survey of hydrogen clouds in the region of the WOW signal's origin, they proposed that the signal was caused by a magnetar, an extremely dense, hypermagnetized neutron star, firing a burst of radiation that struck a cold cloud of interstellar hydrogen gas, briefly causing it to emit a sudden, intense, narrowband radio burst at the hydrogen line. A natural maser, a cosmic accident of geometry and timing. It's a serious hypothesis. It's published. It's peer-reviewed. But it hasn't closed the case. Critics note that no magnetar capable of producing that effect has been identified in the direction of the WOW signal. The hydrogen clouds identified in the survey were not precisely located at the signal's origin coordinates. The explanation requires a specific chain of coincidences. The right magnetar, in the right position, firing at the right moment, striking the right cloud, that cannot currently be verified. The Daily Mail ran a headline in late 2024. Scientists issued chilling update on the famous WOW signal and say they can't rule out aliens. 47 years of investigation. The best natural explanation requires an unidentified magnetar in the right position, firing at exactly the right moment. And it still hasn't been verified. Here is what is objectively true about the WOW signal. It was real. It was recorded on physical hardware by a credentialed scientific institution. The data exists. It has been analyzed by dozens of researchers over nearly 5 decades. Nobody has found an error in the original detection. It matched the theoretical profile of an intentional extraterrestrial transmission on every measurable parameter: frequency, bandwidth, intensity, duration, and point of origin. It has never been detected again despite extensive targeted searches. No natural explanation has been fully verified. The most recent serious hypothesis requires specific physical conditions that have not been confirmed to exist in the direction of the signal's origin. There are only 3 categories of explanation that account for all the data. A natural phenomenon that appeared once and never repeated, which would be extraordinary and unprecedented in radio astronomy. A human-made interference that precisely mimicked every characteristic of what a SETI signal should look like, which would be an almost impossibly specific coincidence. Or an artificial transmission of non-terrestrial origin. The Fermi paradox asks, if intelligent life is common in the universe, where is everybody? The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Even at speeds far slower than light, a civilization that began space exploration 1 million years ago, a blink in cosmic time, could have reached every corner of the galaxy by now. The silence of the cosmos is itself a mystery. For 72 seconds on August 15, 1977, the silence broke. And then it closed again, completely, permanently. That might be the most unsettling part of the entire story. Not that we heard something, but that we heard it exactly once, as if whatever sent it knew we were listening, aimed something at us, and moved on. A 72-second radio signal, every theoretical box checked. 47 years of silence since. The man who found it couldn't explain it. The telescopes built after it couldn't find it again. The best natural explanation requires conditions that haven't been verified. We don't know what the wow signal was. That's the honest answer, after nearly 5 decades of trying. What we know is that on August 15, 1977, something in the direction of Sagittarius broadcast a narrowband signal at the hydrogen line, the universal frequency every intelligent civilization would know to use, and it was strong enough to register 30 times above the noise floor of the universe on a ground-based radio telescope in Ohio. And then it never happened again. Drop a comment. Natural phenomenon, human interference, or something that knew we were listening? I want to know where you land. Next week on Things That Shouldn't Exist, the Antikythera mechanism. A 2,000-year-old Greek device so mechanically sophisticated it couldn't have been built with the tools available at the time. A computer, built before computers existed. We know what it did. We still don't fully know how they made it. Subscribe. I'll see you there.